Trump has announced a U.S. effort to free up ships stranded in the Strait of Hormuz. The waterway has been blocked amid the war with Iran, causing a sharp rise in oil prices worldwide. Well, Peter Bowes is live in Washington with the latest. Peter, what is this effort to free up the strait?
The president is calling it Project Freedom, a humanitarian gesture to help those countries that he says are not tied up with the conflict, but have ships, that have vessels that are caught up in the Strait of Hormuz. The United States, starting Monday, will be guiding them out of the area. On the subject of the negotiations, the back and forth negotiations with Iran, the president doesn't have too much to say, but he does add that he is fully aware that his representatives are having very positive discussions with the country of Iran, and he says these discussions could lead to something very positive for all. However, Clive, he ends his message in this way. He says if this humanitarian process is interfered with, that unfortunately it will be dealt with forcibly.
All right, Peter, thank you. Peter Bowes, our correspondent in Washington. And human rights groups inside Iran have accused the regime of carrying out widespread arrests, torture and executions. With the help of trusted sources inside the country, the BBC has been able to speak with some of those now living in fear of what the future might hold. Here's Fergal Keane.
There's no escaping the simple fact: the regime has survived. The looming presence of its icons is everywhere. On the streets, a kind of surface normality has returned. But for many, like this young couple, hope is giving way to despair. Their conversation here is spoken by actors.
Things will change. It's already changed.
Changed? It's fallen into the hands of the Revolutionary Guards. The country is a mess. At the beginning, I did not want the war to happen. Through the middle of the war, as long as they were targeting key figures, I was genuinely overjoyed with every one of their deaths. But the thing is, so many of their people are still standing. What I had imagined did not come true. Everything got worse, and we are left with the Islamic Republic. I am gutted that they won the war. I consider the Islamic Republic my enemy.
The regime is still killing its enemies. 21 political prisoners have been hanged since the war began, like 18-year-old Amir Hossein Khatami, Babak Alipur, Poya Khobadi, and Amirali Mirjafari.
This was one of the arrested January protesters.
Susan is a lawyer working for the detained and fears worse is to come.
Before the war, harsh treatment was reserved for those who were lead protesters, those who had Molotov cocktails or those who were armed. But during the war, that harshness has intensified significantly. I want the war to end. Still, though, I think that if the war does end, the regime will probably take out its rage from this war on the prisoners. We're living on borrowed time. I genuinely don't think much about the future.
The regime gives all the appearance of confidence, winning in the face of American confusion about how to end the war. Armin is an independent journalist who's fearful about what might happen next, as the regime feels emboldened to persecute anyone it wants to call an enemy.
I personally lie awake wondering what the future holds, and that uncertainty brings with it a terrible anxiety. Before, we might be accused of a political offence, but in the current wartime conditions, if we report on the war, we could be accused of espionage. Before, we were trying to understand how many people had been harmed or what impact the protests would ultimately have. But now it's different. Now we're focused on staying alive, ourselves and our families.
Here, a reminder of how very real the danger is. A memorial service for a young man killed in earlier anti-regime protests. As the world wonders if talks to end the war will resume, the regime remains master of life and death. Fergal Keane, BBC News.